Hello everyone. We're out on this beautiful walk, and today's topic is propaganda. Yesterday I was talking to my friend about this, and we were talking about in their country, Russia, their propaganda versus in my country, the United States, and our propaganda, and just how effective it is. And I casually suggested that it should be made illegal. To which they replied that that wouldn't be possible, and that there are cases of good propaganda, such as brushing our teeth or something. But that didn't quite feel right to me. I feel like stuff like, oh, you should brush your teeth or wash your hands or things, those are, that's not something we typically would call propaganda as people. And so I tried to get to the bottom of what it is we mean by propaganda. And so I did some thinking on it this morning, and so I was thinking about like germ theory and how, so back in the day we had like the theory of the humors, and how basically a misalignment of your body's fluids would cause disease and other things. But we also had like ideas on like spirits causing disease, or diseases being passed through smells, and that's why they had those old like long masks, or the long-nosed masks. They would load those up with spices and herbs to try and block out the smell so that they wouldn't get sick. And so I was thinking like, well, those ideas back in the day weren't really propaganda. That was kind of like the state-of-the-art understanding we had of disease. But then germ theory came along, and it was a vast improvement of ideas. And I wouldn't say that germ theory was propagandized or like pushed onto the people. Like, I wouldn't call it propaganda to be told about germ theory. But what I would call propaganda is if nowadays somebody tried to push the theory of the humors, or the theory of bad spirits, or whatever, that smell passes on diseases or whatever. That would be propaganda. And so for me, that put a clear line, put it into sharp focus what exactly propaganda is. And it is the purposeful telling of a lie in order to push some agenda, or to change somebody's behavior, right? So if you're telling the truth to somebody and it's not a lie, then that would be propaganda, even if it does change their behavior. So I came in today to report to my friend these thoughts, and they were like, well, I think you're not understanding the word propaganda, which comes from the word to propagate. And I was not convinced by this, because if all you want to say is propaganda is basically to propagate, then literally everything we say is like we're propagating words, we're propagating our ideas, and it's just kind of a universal thing that like communication is, and like across the board. And so then it would kind of have very little meaning, wouldn't it? If you're going to define propaganda as anything that's just propagated. So I didn't find that very convincing. And also, it's not the way that the word is really used. Like if we talk about Russian or United States propaganda, we're not really meaning just everything that people say. We usually mean very specific things. And I think the things that we mean are specifically the lies that are told, that everybody knows is a lie, but it still is effective in changing people's behaviors and minds. So it was at this point in the conversation when my friend checked out just very abruptly. I was like, all right, I'm going to bed. I'm like, oh, come on. Don't tell me you find this boring. I was like, well, I'm going to keep thinking about it. And they were like, I am not. So, fair enough if you don't find it interesting. But I do feel like if you don't want to think about something and dig to the bottom of it, then you're also not really like justified in having like strong opinions on it. If you're having like a constructive conversation with somebody and trying to get to the bottom of things and try to understand their ideas and try to go back and forth on like what makes sense, but you just are just like, nope, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't think your ideas or your opinions are justified, like, or at least not having strong ones. I think you can still be like, I'm not convinced by your ideas. I'm just not that interested in it though. Like, that's fine. But yeah, I do find that frustrating. But that's a little side note there. Anyway, so this was propaganda in our discussion of politics, which apparently is the theme. I think in our next one, we're going to talk about a remodeled democracy and how we could make it better with this brand new idea that I had, which I absolutely love. All right, that's it.